in this book, The Empty Space, the legendary theater maker Peter Brook long ago speaks about the deadly theater and the kind of danger of this deadly theater. And when I think of your theater, it's exactly the opposite. So, so actually, I wanted, as a matter of fact, whenever anything with a flair of relevant, living, alive theater is around for the last 10, 15 years, sooner or later the name Milo Rau will be mentioned. So, I mean, you are a theater maker and you are a writer and you are also some kind of, you are a journalist and you are many, many things.
Yeah.
How do you do it? I mean, I have one. This is a very stupid question, but how do you have time for everything? I think you have published something like 15 books or 20 books in the last 10 years or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's always crossover. You could say I'm doing one project, so I don't know, and then book is an outcome, and a play is an outcome, and a film, and you know, a debate series, and whatever. So it's I approach a subject or a context or whatever, and then together with my team, of course, or sometimes even with several teams, we take one part of this. For example, let's take Lamgot, so the Ghent altarpiece, which you are showing. So, for example, we published the book because there were so many stories, and we can only present like 10 of those in the show. So we said, okay, listen, so we have to publish a book with these things in it. There is also a film made about the rehearsals, and then there is the play, of course, and there is a debate, or there were several scandals around the play that produced other materials. So it's kind of like creating a machine that produces all these outcomes itself.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting how, I mean, this is talking about the machine. You have a certain approach, I won't say method, but approach to theater that is in a way very journalistic, dealing with things that really have happened and with very concrete things, not forcing the audience to in this make believe that I as have to somehow kind of convince myself that that person is that person. I'm playing somebody. In your theater, the persons are, and you make some kind of documentary theater actually, as I think of it, in a very multifaceted and going in a very wide directions, but always with this political edge somehow. Speaking of lamb gods, I will very shortly for our audience just describe what it is. It is the first piece you made when you came to NT Ghent, right? When was this something like 2018 or something?
Yes, exactly. It was in September 2018.
Okay,
so
yeah.
Opening of first season.
That's a very smart move, but I may come back to that. But this Lamb Gods, it's a altar piece in the Ghent Cathedral, painted by two brothers. Was it Hubertus and Jan van Eyck in the middle of the 15th century, something like this. And it's a legendary piece of art, also a change maker in the painting history, as your work is a change maker in the art scene in the same way. It's a very smart piece. I think it's very beautiful, of course, but if you think of it as the first piece when you come to a new theater, to really to make something that is a kind of celebrating the city and celebrating also the people in the city. Was it, if I may put this very stupid question, was it, how did you get the idea? Was it clear from the very beginning that this exactly is what you are going to do there, or where did it come from?
It was clear from the very beginning that I wanted to do it, and people said, "But Milo, this is the biggest cliche of the city, so you can't do that." And in the end, it's you could say kind of a rule, because I'm starting very many times from the biggest cliche. When I was invited to Matera, for example, I took the Jesus story, because all the Jesus films were shot in Matera. So I think that always the first idea is the best idea. And it might seem to be a touristic idea, and it was, but in the end you see that through the prisma of this very obvious idea you can go very complex. So this play was even adapted for other cities, that other people said, that's interesting, because we can tell another story in our city about it, you know. Of course it's the Ghent Alta piece, but it's a universal piece that is by accident in Ghent, you know, like the Mona Lisa belongs to everybody, or the Bible belongs to everybody. So going from the very universal and obvious to the very concrete, I think it's, and you said that this painting was a change maker, and it's true, because Adam and Eve that you see on these paintings, of course they are the first humans, and that's the most universal human allegory that you can have. It's just the human. So on the other hand, how they painted it, you can see the red hands of Adam, because it was really a neighbor coming from the fields, going to the atelier of these two brothers, getting naked, and still you could see the hands burned by the sun. So it's a very specific person standing in for a very universal idea. And I think bringing these two together is for me the art of realistic painting, or realistic... And that's where I would perhaps contradict the word documentary, because documentary is only the concrete. But realistic is the concrete and the universal at the same time, you know? Using the world to tell a story about all possible worlds, perhaps even imaginary worlds. So you can write a realistic story about dreams, if you want, but you can't write a documentary play about dreams, you know? So I think it's quite important to make this this difference. And it's also, for me, it was super important to go back to this very first moment when the realistic painting or realism in painting started. By the way, not in all parts of the painting. The cities are still old style, the backgrounds are still old style, the faces are very modern, for example. The perspective is the perspective of the early Renaissance. You have the first time that they paint in oil. You know, the last very important thing about this painting is, we are talking here about the brothers Ike, but actually more than 20 painters were, it's a collective work, were included in it. So you have the specialists for the faces of women, you have the specialist for drops of rain, you have the specialist for city views, you have the specialist for horses, and you will find back the same horse in the same 20 years all over the painting of Flanders and Holland, you know, in the early Renaissance. You have this kind of very concrete and super impersonal, very subjective and super collective, very realistic and having a biblical story. And these kind of dialectics is what I think is very important. For example, you can bring together the documentary and the fiction, and then you have realism. But it's not the one side, and it's not the other side.
It's very beautiful how you actually follow up the process of the brothers of Eik into modern times, inviting real people to stand models for the models.
And you know, the beautiful thing is in these paintings, I mean, it's a kind of a micro ecology, a painting like this, because you have even the Mäzenas, the guy who paid for it. The capital is depicted
exactly.
Actually, when you close it behind, you see the portrait of the guy who gave the money. For us, it was the European Commission who gave the money. So the European Commissioner is also in the painting, you know? And then I self, the painter, I'm also in the image. I have even two brothers Ike. So we have even a mise en abîme, what they also did, that the moment we go out of the room and we see the painting somewhere else. So when you have kind of this this whole, because when a painter in the Renaissance was painting, he was like, who pays, who sees it, who is depicted, who is on it, who's making it. That was all the same cosmos, you know.
And
To
I
put
think
in things in different fields, it's an invention of later times. It's a bourgeois invention of the 19th century. That it's kind of you wouldn't put, for example, the financer of something inside the image. But I thought, okay, let's go back to this time. Everything is one.
It's beautiful. And how, I mean, with these very specific kind of stories of the Ghent people and these real people, how you then succeed to kind of let that painting or this performance in a way reflect the whole world with these big themes of life and death and birth and love that kind of comes out of it. So in this one painting, this one city, very specifically with these specific stories of these specific people, actually reflects the world like in a water drop. And
Yes,
this is something.
true.
This is also something that I've been thinking often of when I think of what I've seen or what you have done. I haven't seen everything, of course, obviously, but you always have a political kind of edge and some very strong societal kind of corner of it. But at the same time, there is a poetry, kind of the poetry of politics. Is that something that you are aware or is it just something that comes out?
I think everything happens in the relation you have to the people you're working with. When you're talking about theater or film, you know, writing is, I guess, a more solipsistic work, but you don't have an idea in the morning when you go to the city or you go to the rehearsal room, you meet somebody and the whole context, the collective gives you an idea that was not there before. Or perhaps it was there since 20 years, but it is found by somebody else. So we published a book called Why Theater, and another maker from Germany, René Polesch, who is now the artistic director of Volksbühne at this time.
I know him. Yeah. I know him. Yeah.
So he wrote in the book, I need somebody to think. So when you are alone at home, I mean, why would you think? For whom? So you always need somebody to be in a dialogue, and I think that's how I see the poetics of it. So if there is somebody else coming, then you have another topic, you have another poetic, you have another response to perhaps, or you find something else inside yourself that you would have found, or you find something else inside this image of the Ghent altarpiece or inside the city of Ghent. So it really depends. I think that the poetic work is very, very concrete. Is super concrete, and of course then you go, if you have a kind of a start of a material or of a whatever, then you start to go over it and over it and over it, and you go more inside what classically you would describe as artistic work, you know, like the polishing of it, you know. But I think this is more the technical side, but the really inspirational side is really happening in a situation always. For example, if I don't find, I mean, you can have the most beautiful idea and then you go inside a situation, you see it doesn't work. Nobody's interested in it. The other people there's no response, so you have to change. Change or find a new idea.
Right. Okay, this is very, very interesting to hear and to see the painter behind the painting. If I think we can little by little kind of finish off.
Okay, great.
Short chat. I'm very curious to ask you, what are you working on right now?
I'm just of course,
but for
yeah, I'm just coming back from South France. I'm doing a film about the Second World War. So you have in 1944 the SS destroyed the whole village. They killed just everybody in Oradour-sur-Glane. And I went there. There are still some survivors. There is, of course, the families of the survivors, and I asked them if they want to shoot, to make this whole massacre again, together with me, and they playing in all roles.
Okay.
So that's the film we are doing at that moment, and called, of course, The Massacre.
Okay. Interesting. So yeah, I might mention to the people watching this that one very important paper is the manifesto that Milo wrote, or Milo and your team wrote when you came to Ghent. There are 10 points for theater making that are very, very, I would say, important. Speaking of making theater relevant, so I might suggest for the watchers of this and for the watchers of Lamb God to visit the Enter Ghent site to check this manifesto as a kind of other kind of background for the watching experience.
For the play too, yeah. Absolutely. You even see 2 children reading it out in front of the Ghent.
So it's funny. It's very funny. Okay, thank you, Milo.
Okay,
thank you very much
Erik.
for this.
Enjoy the film.
Yeah, and I very much hope to be able to invite some performances of you to
It
Finland.
would be fantastic. We have a lot of things you can invite.
Let's continue on that.
Let's continue on that.
Yeah.
Let's have a talk about more exchange. Absolutely.
Right.